Hey everybody, it is Nathan and Jess Selove with another episode of You Might Be Autistic.
If. Oh, so it's actually not another episode. I'm gonna pull back the curtain. We don't actually have curtains. I was using a metaphor. I'm going to expose us because this is not a new episode. This is the same episode we recorded last week. But Nathan said, "Will you help me with a video?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm really busy." And he said, "It will just be one video. I can edit it into two." And I said, "Sold," because
we ended up going a little longer than we normally do. But this is, for them, this is another video. So why don't you explain to us what You Might Be Autistic If is all about?
it's about you and others and me being autistic and how we might be. No. Okay. Sorry. You Might Be Autistic If is a segment that Nathan does because a lot of people have stories or knowledge and expertise on autism because they are autistic or they're really close with autistic people. And they want to share it either to revel in it or to feel closer to people or to laugh about it or to commiserate about autistic experiences.
Yep, and these are all audience-submitted statements.
Well, not all. The statements by us are us submitted statements.
Yeah. Usual disclaimers. First off, we apologize if we mispronounce anybody's name. If we do, please correct us in the comments down below. And also, just because you can relate to some of these doesn't mean that you are autistic, and just because you can't doesn't mean that you aren't. You met one autistic.
I really like this chair because I can stem in it.
You met one autistic. So, you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get ended.
This is from DJ. You might be autistic if you have spent an entire day playing video games and barely doing anything else, such as drinking water, eating, or going to the bathroom unless you have to. So, Cyberpunk 2077 just came out.
Yeah, I'm not going to see Nathan again for a long time. Our texts are going to be a bit like old letters, you know, from like people who have been separated for a long time. It'll be like, "Oh, my dearest husband, we have not spoken in several days."
I'm gonna be in this room.
Yeah, but that's all the way over here.
and she can't get up and walk over here, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, why would I? It's gonna have like pew pew noises. Transgender Service Dog says, "You might be autistic if your best relationship was with an autistic person and literally didn't notice any weird behaviors and were able to relate to them in a way you haven't related to someone before."
Oh, that's
so
funny.
That is basically
funny.
the story of how we discovered I'm autistic because I met Nathan and basically, I mean, there are a lot of other characters. I've definitely met other autistic people before Nathan and after. But one of the things that happened was when I met Nathan, I said, "You just make me feel so comfortable." And he would say, "Oh, yes, this thing about myself." And I would say, "Me too. How great." And he'd say, "Well, that's because I'm autistic." And I'm like, Nathan actually, in his play Odd is Love, explored that a little bit.
Yeah.
And wrote an entire thesis.
Yeah. Which, if you haven't seen that play, you should go back and watch it.
It's on his YouTube. You can just search like "Aut" as in A-U-T is love. But didn't you say in your research there was some interesting information about like autistic people in relationships?
Yeah, there actually
with
was,
other autistics.
There actually was some research that I found that showed that autistics that are in relationships with other autistics tend to actually have more relationship satisfaction. Now, of course,
will report more.
Now, of course, that is quantitative data, which means that it's like a certain percentage of people express that. So it doesn't automatically mean that if you are in a neurodiverse relationship, meaning one of you is autistic, one of you is not, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's doomed to failure. It's just that's what the quantitative research was showing.
I think it would also be worth noting that if this is a self-reported satisfaction, it could be that autistic people in a relationship with another autistic person might feel more comfortable with reporting satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Honestly, And that might not be a component of all relationships, and that's not to say all autistic relationships are very open and honest. It's just that autistic people get in trouble a lot because we can't shut up about our dissatisfaction. So usually you can trust when an autistic person says that they're satisfied with something.
Next one is from frequent commenter Shifty Clutch, one of my favorite names to say.
Hey, Shifty.
Hey, Shifty.
Getting shifty with it.
Get shifty. It's like get swifty.
Yeah, I think everyone got it. We're the ones who are nerding out here. Nobody else is gonna love that.
If wet clothes or sweating is sensory hell, you might be autistic.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we talk about theme parks? Because I have feelings, and my feelings are that they suck. And I don't care what you want to say about your favorite memory of King's Dominion or how much you loved Six Flags. They suck because you spend all day walking in the heat, because it's a theme park who goes in the middle of the winter, and you spend all day walking in the heat, and you get hot and sweaty, and you get sweat behind your knees and in your legs. And if you live on the East Coast, then you will know that sweat doesn't do anything. There's a biological function to sweat, but the East Coast is like, ha ha ha, that's not going to happen. So it just pulls on your skin and stays there, and you walk around like tacky. And when your clothes get wet because you went on a river ride, you thought, oh, I'll cool off, I'll go on a river ride. Then you're just in wet clothes, and it's sticking to you, and it's terrible. And this is, I'm sorry.
So I disagree with
I'm
her
very
about,
upset about this. I have feelings.
I disagree about theme parks, because I like theme parks because for me, the roller coasters are actually really nice for my sensory. It's a way for me to like get out that anxiety. But I will definitely agree. I hate wearing wet clothes. I hate like being super sweaty. It sucks. So
if it's raining outside, I just don't go. There's going outside when it's raining.
I like going out. I actually like sitting out in the rain, but I don't like to be in wet clothes when it's not wet. Like if I like going out into the rain.
Yeah, you
but
do
like
that.
when I come in, I have to change clothes.
Yeah. No, I just, every time I've seen a romantic movie or something like that where the characters are in the rain and it's like, it's meant to be, I mean, like, it's visually arresting, right? To see like a torrential downpour, and then people like so locked in love or whatever. But it's just, it makes me so upset, and it takes me out of the moment because their clothes are wet. How can you think about romance then? It's terrible. Shifty Clutch, you're right. It is hell. Igby Pop says, you might be autistic if one of your middle school teachers asked if you were autistic and just took what does that mean as a no and never brought it up to your parents, shrinks, didn't know what to do with you to the point of telling they don't know what's wrong with you, but something is definitely wrong. And eventually, one shrink straight up said, yeah, this is Asperger's, but didn't bother to put it on paper or tell your parents, so you spend the rest of high school floundering and getting tough, largely unhelpful love from the school counselor and losing a full ride you got to uni you were interested in due to ACT scores because your grades were abysmal because you couldn't executive function. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yep.
But so I think this is more related to my experience
than less
your experience.
It seems like that's super specific, but that's also super common.
Like, this seems like more my kind of experience than yours was.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, I've talked before about the fact that I had teachers who kind of alluded to, oh, something's wrong, but nobody ever followed up on it. And for my mother, she really didn't have any resources about where to go or even any information about a general area to start. I know a lot of people whose diagnosis stories really happened because their parents had to basically research autism, figure out, okay, my kid is autistic, clearly. Now I have to spend months and months and months finding a professional, a clinician who is a specialist in autism, who can see my child, who can also do a professional diagnosis. So those don't always occupy the same person. There are sometimes people who are clinicians that are very highly skilled and intelligent about autism, and they don't do official diagnoses because those have their own set of criterion. Yeah. So what I would just say is that's pretty much the story of a lot of autistic people. Yeah. And I'm so sorry you went through that, and I hope that you feel like you can get support or have support to do what you need to now. Yeah. Or maybe you're at the start of that path with having your diagnosis to ask for things like accommodations.
The one part of that I think I actually can relate to is the part where the teacher kind of just says, hey, I think there's something wrong with your kid. That's actually something that did happen. Like my preschool teacher went up to my mother and was like, hey, you know, I think there's something wrong with your kid. So I think that actually brings up another important point, which is if you're
the language.
Yeah, the language.
Wrong.
So if you're a teacher and you happen to be watching this, like if you teach younger children, if you suspect that there might be some type of neurological disability that one of your students might have, maybe don't use the phrase like, I think there's something wrong with your kid. And that's not about me being like, you know, PC, be good to their feelings. It's about how
it
parents,
shuts off parents.
Yeah, it shuts down parents. Parents are less likely to want to think that there's something wrong with their child if they think like, if that's the framing of it. But if it's framed as more, hey, I think there might be some accommodations that your kid might need.
I was just thinking, do we have a script for neurotypicals? In an interesting turn of events, we have a script for neurotypicals, which is, I think there might be ways we could better support your child. Or I wonder if there is something that's providing a barrier to your child's education, life, experiences, whatever. You know, talking like with a parent as in like, let's both try to figure this out for the best of your child. Because if you just tell someone there's something wrong, they don't really know. Also, that kind of puts the burden on, you need to figure out what's wrong with your child. Have you tried turning it off and then turning it back on again? It's useless language. It's not going to get the effect you want. Do better, U.S. education system.
The next one is from LTZ Gaming. You might be autistic if you eat the same foods on a daily basis. I have a bacon, cheese, and onion omelet every morning.
It's not actually cheese. It's American cheese.
It's cheese. It's cheese.
Okay, fine. So when I met Nathan, his meal every single day, actually his meals every single day were bacon and eggs in the morning, and then he would come home and make himself cheeseburgers. And that was what he ate. And then we started dating, and he was like, do you want me to make burgers one night? And we had burgers, and it was great. And then the next night, I said, okay, I'm hungry. What are we going to do? And he said, I can make burgers again. And I said, but we had that yesterday. Why would we want that again?
Well, because burgers are delicious.
So, I will say though that like I definitely have favorite foods, and I really struggle to order new things at a restaurant that I like and am familiar with. If I'm at a new restaurant, I love to try something new, but if I'm at a restaurant that I really like and I really like my order, I will stress and get so anxious about changing my order and don't talk about the time when I tried to change my order.
Oh yeah, she tried to change her order at Red Robin. Thanks for reminding me. She tried to change her order at Red Robin.
I thought you were going to bring it up. I thought it was being preemptive.
No, and she was basically
foiled by myself.
She always gets the same thing. It's like, a lettuce wrap, burger with like caramelized onions, and basically nothing else.
Bacon, tomato, pickle?
Sometimes bacon, and pickle and all that stuff. And one time she ordered like this, it was like this guacamole burger with like...
No, I think it was like a jalapeno
onion crisps
thing.
And stuff like that. And she's like, all right, I'll have that, but just like take off the guacamole, take off the onion crisps.
I don't like guacamole, and I don't want them crisp. They put them in batter.
And instead of having it be like the normal onions, can you caramelize the onions? And I was like, Jess, you just ordered the exact same thing. You just tacked it on to a different burger.
And it was delicious. It was the right move.
All right. And finally, the last one from LTZ Gaming. You might be autistic if someone is talking constantly in a conversation and you know what to say, but you just forgot when they finally finish their conversation.
Oh man, this is every interaction that we have. Like for the rest of our lives, Nathan and I will be battling over who gets to say what's on their mind in the middle of a conversation. And there's this thing that happens when we're around other people too, where like one of us knows and the other one won't shut up, and we're just like waiting, and then they finish, and then someone else takes the conversation in a different direction, and then 5 minutes later one of us will be like, okay, back to what I was gonna say. We need to come back to the conversation because I didn't say what was on my mind. And what if it's important information you need. It never is. But what if it is?
Well, that's all the ones that we have time for today. Thank you so much to those of you that submitted You Might Be Autistic If statements. If you have any You Might Be Autistic If statements, please leave them in the comments below, and at some point, we will hopefully get to them.
In 10 years, we have to. In 10 years at least.
We do have a little bit of a backlog, but in the meantime, that's today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Check out some of my other stuff. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, support me on Patreon. And you will see me in the next one.